Welcome back to the fourth video in our series of QA SDET interview question and answer, specifically targeting for product companies, right? Now, hope you guys have already watched the previous videos. We have already released videos on test plan and test case enumeration, automation framework, and Java, right? I will share the links for all three sessions in the description section. Please go through it. Today we are going to target the interview questions on Selenium. So before we jump into the interview questions, just let me share you a couple of things. Okay, what happens when we apply for a SDET position or automation position? Basically the interview divide the entire 1 hour. For example, if you have an interview of 1 hour, they will divide it for like 4 sections. One section is dedicated for your framework and test planning, one section for Java, one section for Selenium, one section for your Jenkins and Git. So to clear all the rounds, you have to be precisely known that what are the things you should aware of while working with a automation project. That's how I have divided it, right? That's why we have also 4 part into it. But the section that is API, REST assured and Postman, that depends on your profile, right? If you are applying for a UI automation profile, then they may not ask you the API, REST assured and Postman part, but yes, coding will definitely be there. So we have initially discussed about the test planning, test case enumeration, automation framework, and Java. Today our focus will be on Selenium. When we talk about Selenium, those who are already aware, it's good. Those who are completely new, Selenium helps us to automate the web or UI, right? Whenever we want to automate any action on UI or web, we take help from the Selenium, right? That is WebDriver interface, which provides lots of methods to automate the actions. Now I will discuss all the question and answers, right? With that, what I thought that instead of just reading it out over here, I will show you directly on the screen. So I will take you to a demo website where I will show you that exactly what happens, so that by knowing the answer, you should also get a visualization, so that it will be easy for you to explain the things, or if you get any cross questions on your answer, then you will be able to visualize the things that we have discussed today and able to answers. Right, so let's start. Our first question is how to handle alerts and pop-ups in Selenium. So basically, what do we mean by alerts and pop-ups? So this is the practice website I am taking as an example. Okay, so if I will come over here, okay, this pop-up you see, right, this is basically an alert pop-up, and there are different type of alert pop-ups. Okay, this is one type where you will get only OK button. There may be one another type where there will be two buttons. One is cancel and one is OK, right? And you will click on OK or cancel, right? And there may be some buttons where you need to, or some type of alert or pop-ups where you need to enter any text inside it. So typically the majority of scenario will come this way. It will have mostly 2 buttons, one for click on OK and one for clicking on cancel. Right, so when you automate this kind of scenario, you cannot directly go over here and click on this OK and cancel, right? So Selenium, what Selenium does, Selenium has provided us a very easy way to deal with this, and that is called as your switch to. So when we use switch to, you can directly go to that alert and perform your action. For example, in this scenario, we have 2 actions to perform. One is cancel and one is OK. Right, so when you need to click on cancel or OK, what you need to do, let's see, this is my confirm, right? I want to click cancel. Then what I will do, driver dot switch to dot alert. So I am now in alert, and then dot dismiss. So whenever you click on dismiss, it will go and click on the cancel button. Whenever you want to click on OK, what you need to do, driver dot switch to dot alert dot accept. Right, this is the typical scenario. Okay, so that's why I have given the answer for this one. How to handle alerts and pop-ups, you should give these 2 answer. And if any question will come like how you will handle the text box, then we do have answers for it. I will explain it in the later questions, right? But usually you will get this question, that how to handle your pop-ups. And pop-ups means, and whenever you explain this answer, try to give a real-time example that, oh yes, I have faced a similar kind of scenario while I was automating a page where I got this kind of pop-up, it was specifically asking for this, and I have used this one to resolve it, right? It would give you confidence to the interviewer that you have not only you have knowledge about it, but also you have implemented it before. Got it, right? Next question is how to switch frames in Selenium. So what happens, this is basically called as frame. Can you see iframe? It has been written. This is basically a frame. So frame are also not available in your direct page, so you cannot access it directly. So always remember, whenever there is a scenario where you cannot access some part of it, for example your alert, some example your frames, right, then you need to use driver.switch to. Switch to means you are switching from your current position to a new position. Here the new position is iframe. So if they ask you like how you are going to manage your frames, so again driver.switch to .frame. Now the question is how you will decide that which frame. Why you need to decide which frame? In this particular screen we have only one frame, so it's easy for us that okay, when I will do driver.switch to .frame, it may go to this frame. But let's consider a scenario where you have multiple iframes, maybe you have 3-4 iframes, and you want to make or perform some actions particularly on the second iframe. Then how you will go to that, right? That's why when they ask that how to switch frames, tell them that frames, to switch to frames I need to use driver.switch to and .frame. But there may be a scenario that where I have multiple frames, right? And to identify that which particular frame I have to select, there are 3 ways. One is your indexing, you will give the frame number. Second is your frame name or frame ID, right? That is your second name, frame name or frame ID, correct? And the third one is web element or frame element. Out of all 3, I would always suggest to go for this one. Priority, top priority give to identify the frame element, second priority with frame name or ID, and least priority is this one, frame number, because the sequence may change, and I would never advise to use this one. Okay, so better try to go with first web element, this one, frame name or ID, and the third one priority should be this. And whenever you answer these questions, do add those things I am explaining to you. Okay, don't give like, okay, we have 3-way, ID, string, and web element. That would be a very theoretical answers. Okay, so always try to give them a scenario like, okay, we have frame switch to .frame to manage frames, and there may be a scenario where we have multiple frames, and if I want to perform action, or give an example, okay, I have faced a similar kind of issue where I have to make changes in particularly the second frame, and then I went to the second frame, identify with a web element or frame name or ID, then I get inside the frame and perform the actions. Got it, right? Let's go to the third question. How to perform back, forward, and refresh actions in Selenium. So back, forward, and refresh means this is back, okay, this is forward, right, and this is your fresh button. So how you will perform, why I am showing you these things, guys, because in the interview what happens, sometimes they ask you to, okay, you perform these things on your screen or automate the screen, and when you try to automate in front of them by sharing your screen, it will be easy for you to explain sometime, right? And if you have the visualization, it will be easy to understand. So the question is how you will automate these 3 things, right? Forward, backward, and refresh. For that we have driver.navigate. Driver.navigate help us to move back, forward, and refresh in Selenium, right? So if you want to go back, you can do driver.navigate.back. If you want to move forward, you can do driver.navigate.forward. And if you want to refresh the page, you can simply write driver.navigate.refresh. Give an example of it. Okay, always try to give an example that there are some pages where you get stuck and you have to refresh, you have used navigate.refresh, right? Or to make sure that, okay, the particular your validation point where you are putting a validation for an element, to get it you need to anyhow refresh the page, that's why you have used this, right? Back and forward, frankly speaking, not much, we don't use very frequently these 2 things. Yes, refresh sometime we use, back and forward very rare, I can say, okay, from my experience. Okay, so with that, Let's move on to the next question. What are the methods provided in Selenium to select from dropdown? Dropdown is a very common thing. Okay, you will see it very frequently while automating. So how basically this dropdown looks like? Let me try to find out a dropdown for you guys. Okay, so that you folks can also able to see that, okay, how basically this dropdown looks like. This is a typical dropdown. Can you see? This is a drop down. So whenever you have a drop down, you cannot just, if you want to select, for example, Denmark, right? If you want to select India, then you cannot directly go and identify India over there. What you need to do, you need to take help of select classes, right? What are the methods provided in Selenium to select from drop down? So here this select is particularly a class, right, which will help us to do the selection. Right, in that select class there are three methods: select by visible text, select by value, select by index. Right, select by visible text, select by value, and select by index. Now what happens when I will quickly go through this one and inspect it? Okay, see, this is part of my select class. Correct, this is part of my select class. What is the visible text? Visible text is INDIA India, right? And this is my visible text. Correct, and here also you will get the value, select by value. Okay, this is your select by value, and this is your visible text. What is visible? That is basically on the screen. That is your visible text. What you find it over here as a value, that will be your value. Many of the time the text and values means the visible text and value would be same also. Okay, so don't worry about it. It may be same, it doesn't matter, right? But you can identify with your visible text, with your value, or with your index. What do you mean by index? Now, for example, if I want to select Bahamas, then Bahamas is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 4, 5, 6th position. So the index would be 6th. Simple, right? But what I would suggest, never go for index in the first attempt. Always try to go with value first. First priority, go by value, then go by text. Worst case scenario, go with index. Right, I always advise to all my students, and over here also those who are watching the video, whenever you are dealing with any UI or web automation, keep in mind that try to avoid as much as possible those indexing, because indexing may change. If there is a new entry or there is a new addition of options, the index may change. So that's why never try to dependent on index. If it will change, it will increase your maintenance work, right? You need to again go back, you need to edit it, right? That's why I always advise that never try to go with this index part. Either go with the value. Value should be your first priority. Second priority would be your visible text. And I guess you have a fair idea like how the drop down looks like, right? Thanks to this website actually, because it helps us to visualize the things and it helps us to understand the things in a better way. Right, let's move on to next question. How to get current URL, title, and page source? So the easy method is driver.get current URL to get the URL, driver.get title to get the title, and driver.get page source. But the thing is that let's have a look at it. What do you understand by a title and what do you understand by a current URL? So basically, if I will come over here, go to the head. This is my title. Can you see? And have a little bit of idea, okay, how to go to inside the head, how to check the title. If you have a brief idea on it, it will help a lot while dealing with some kind of issues or fixing a maybe a failure in your test case or something, or putting an additional validation, right? So this is basically your title. And always remember, title and URL are not same things. Okay, so URL is different, title is title is different. So if you want to validate the title, this one is the title you can see inside the head, and this is your URL. So when I say get current URL, it will return me this one, and when I say get title, it will return me this one. And page source means the entire page source. Okay, you can easily get it by right clicking on this and go to the view page source. This is your page source. Correct, this is your page source. Very rarely you will be asked to validate this one, but title and URL is very important. Okay, for example, you want to, just a example I'm giving, you want to check that once you click on controls, or okay, for example, you are in this page and you want to check that once you click on form, you have redirected to form. Can you see here the URL changes? So you can put a validation, right? Get current URL should be /student/form. UI test practice / students transform. This is a usage I can say. And whenever they are also asking the give a real-time usage, like I told, right? You are moving from one page to another, and in the another page you want to make sure that you have landed in the correct URL, right? Similarly, always remember the titles barely change. Okay, see, the title will mostly remain same. Okay, and here is an example also I have given how you will write it. For example, you need to create a method, because if you want to validate the current URL again and again, right, it's not wise to call this method again and again in your script. Rather than you can create a generic method which will return the current URL. Then what you can do, driver dot get current URL, right? And you can call this method in your test scripts. Why I have done it public, so that I can access it in any of my test scripts, right? And if you want to directly call this method without creating object of the class, then use static public static string. The return type is string, right? So whenever you will use get current URL, then it will return you the current URL, right? It will return you this one, correct? So just create a method like this, then it will automatically return. You can put a validation, right? For example, the validation will something look like assert dot assert equals, for example, okay, assert equals your this current URL, and what is your current URL? This is your current URL, just to give you an example, right? This is how your assertion will look like, correct? Because we have created the method, so we are calling that method which will return us the string, and we are comparing it with this one. Makes sense, right? Super. Let's move on to the next question. What is the return type of find elements? Okay, there are two ways, right, to identify element. One by using find element, one by using find elements, and the return type are pretty different in both the case. For find elements, the return type is list. The return type is list. And what is a list? List is a interface in Java, and the return type of find elements is also a list. That's why if you are trying to find an element which is not present on your screen, find elements won't throw you an error, rather it will give you a empty list. Always remember this statement, and whenever you are explaining this answer, tell all the things I'm explaining. When you tell that it will return a list, tell them that list is an interface which is part of Java, right? Java collections class, and it is an interface. List is an interface, and our return type of find elements is list. That's the reason if the element is not present, it will not throw error, rather than it will give me an empty list. Explain all those points, okay? Don't like what is the return type of find elements? List. No, you should explain a little bit around it, right? And if you have a typical example that, okay, why you have used find elements particularly in this scenario, then give them that example. Like, I don't want to make my test case to fail at that point of time, I want to just move forward with the steps, then I can use this one. Or I have a typical scenario where I have to manage it in this way, that's why I have used find elements. Always with your answer, a real-time example is going to add a lot of value, right? That's why I'm trying to give you examples. So here also I've done, right, look at a strategy, look at value. Now this will return me a list if this is present, this element is present. If it is not present, it is going to give me a empty list, right? Okay, the next question is how to clear text using Selenium. First, let's understand what do we mean by clear text. I have written here over here for like tester1. Now my test scenarios is asking me that come over here, remove this part, and then type tester2. Then what you will do, first you will identify this one, right? You will identify this object, correct? Once this object is identified, for example, you have identified using id is equal to first name, right? Because this is the best one, correct? So id is equal to first name, you have identified it. After identification, what you need to do, you need to use driver.clear. See, you have identified over here by.id search input. For example, for us it will be first name, right? First name, correct? And then element.send keys before. So first name is we have identified it, right? Then what we need to do, we need to let enter or what we have entered initially, tester1. Then we will clear it, right? And then what we will do, we will put the another value, that is tester2. Always give this kind of example, okay, and write this many lines whenever you are answering. It will add a lot of values. Okay, why? Because again I am saying giving an example will give the interviewer more confidence. This guy is not only aware of the things, rather than he has already implemented it, and that's where it makes sense that this guy we are hiring as an experienced candidate. Makes sense, right? Super. Next question, how to get all cookies with name of the cookie. Before we deep dive into it, let me show you a very important thing. Okay, if you anytime try to figure out that how I will see cookies, go to this application, come over here. Okay, you will see all the cookies. Isn't it awesome, right? I guess most of you already know. Those who are not aware of it, this is the place where you can see the cookies, right? And cookies helps us a lot, right? Not because it's good to eat. It's basically because cookies helps us to make things faster for us, right? Now here cookies has already, you can already see the cookies over here. Now sometime what happens, we need to fetch all those cookies. In that case we can use driver.manage.getCookies. It will fetch all the cookies it has. So how many cookies? A lot of cookies we have, right? Name value, a lot of cookies we have. If you want to fetch all the cookies, use getCookies. But sometime you may need to fetch a specific cookie. For example, an ID. You want only the value of this cookie, an ID value. So this should be your output. Then what you can do, get cookie named, this is the name. Then it will fetch the cookie with that particular name. Cookies are very important. Okay, many of the time when you are dealing with a web page, you are automating, you may need to deal with cookies. That's why knowing about cookies, it's little bit, and nobody will tell you always that where the cookies lies. You may need to figure out. That's why I have shown you over here, so that it will be easy for you, right? Easy for you to understand. So now here what I can do, I can simply write NID. I want to get the value of this cookie, right? Similarly, our next question is related to cookies. How to delete all cookies with the name and with the name of the cookie. So if you want to delete all cookies, driver.manage.delete all cookies. This will always present in your before shoot or before test. You will definitely see it. Mostly in the before method they use it, okay, most of the time. Because why they delete all cookies in before method, let me tell you this one. This is a framework standard also. If they ask you this interview question, tell them that driver.manage.delete all cookies I have also used in my base test or core test in my before method, so that every time I am trying to log in a page, I want to remove the cookies beforehand. Because sometimes what happens, if you don't remove the cookies, it will directly land you to the home page. It will don't even ask you the sign in, right? That's why it is always safe to delete all cookies, and we usually keep it in before method, right? So that we want to make sure that every time we are executing a test case, it is fresh, starting from scratch, no dependency, right? That's the thumb rule, correct? That's why driver.manage.delete all cookies, and that's why they ask this question also, and they expect you to say that you have used it somewhere in the framework, at what level and why, right? Give them the example I have given. Similarly, if you want to delete a specific cookie, there is a cookie name specific to this one, then what you can do, simply delete cookie named here and ID. Correct? Simple, right? Cookies are very important, so be aware of this, okay, that how to manage your cookies. There are a couple of more things to manage cookie more efficiently. In the next session we will discuss. Okay, so basically what I have planned, we will have one session each on everything, which will contain the most essential questions. Then we will move on to again, so it will not be like whatever we are discussing for Java, that is enough, right? We need some more questions also, that will come in the series 2. Series 1 will have one question set on all the topics, including the important one. Then we in the series 2 we will discuss about the next set of questions. Hope you understand our plan, right? So now let's move on to the last question, that is how to fetch text from UI in Selenium. So there are two ways. Either you can use get text, or you can use get attribute the property name. Let me tell you how basically it will be helpful. For example, you want to fetch this one, user applications form, right? Let's go to console. Sorry, elements, right? Let's identify this one. So if you see over here where the text is located, here is our text, right? Users application form. So if you want to get text of this particular element, or example, you want to get text for this one, right? For example, this one, marital status, right? Then you can, what you can do, you can use get text. It will return you the text, but sometime that won't return you. Sometime what happens when you use the get text method, it won't return the text. In that case, what you can do, you can use dot get attribute and the property name. What is the name here? The property name is, for example, sometime what happens, it lies inside a property. For example, for or class, any property, it will be inside that. For example, id, placeholder, anything, right? But the main thing is, if you don't able to find first preference, you should, for example, here placeholder, right? Enter date of birth, that is inside our placeholder. So what you can do, you can simply write driver dot find element by dot name. What is this name? This one is date picker, id date picker, or by dot name, don't name, we can go with by dot id, and this one is date picker, right? So date picker, we have identified it. Element dot get value by get attribute placeholder, right? Get attribute placeholder. So it will help you to fetch the value of that particular property, right? Get text will always be the first priority. Okay, try to use get text. If get text doesn't work, any of the time get text doesn't work, right? It doesn't work as expected. In that case, what you can do, you can come over here and use the placeholder. Makes sense, right? So either get text or get attribute with the value. Correct. Now, before we jump into the next thing, there are a couple of tips I'm going to give you. Whenever you are explaining any answer, give them a real-time example. Tip number 1, right? Tip number 2, whenever you are explaining, if you don't have an example, then tell them that instead of your real-time example, try to give the example which I have shown you. If you don't have a real-time example in your project, then only prefer the example I have given in this session. Second thing, right? Third thing, if you have enough time during the interview, try to write those things. Okay, when he asks get attribute, immediately write web element, I will add first identify like this, and then I will go to this step, I will do element dot get attribute, and I will put this one like this. Try to write it. Okay, it will always give us little bit more confidence to the interviewer that this guy is aware of the concepts and he has used it efficiently before, right? That's the main reason, right? That's why we are focusing that, okay, giving an example is important. 3 tips you have to keep in mind. And the fourth and the last tip, okay, whenever in interview they are asking you a question, don't give a very precise and crisp answer always. Sometimes precise and crisp answer are good, but if you have an example or if you have a scenario to present, don't hesitate to do that. That will definitely going to add value. Got it? So now we have completed our first set of important questions on the Selenium. There are many more questions we are going to discuss where I will give you the real-time examples which will help you to answer accordingly. Next session, we will try to focus on some questions on Jenkins CI/CD, right? And then we'll move to Git and Maven a bit. But Selenium has another round also, because you know, right, this much Selenium is a huge topic. We get a lot of questions on methods and many things we get from it. If you want to figure out a little bit more questions, I am going to provide a link in the description. Okay, you can refer that link. That link has more methods or interview questions for your practice. Right? Our main intention is not to provide you answers, because answers are provided in Google, right? Our main intention is how you should answer. Apart from yes or no or single answer, how you can make it more interactive and give the confidence to the interviewer that you have really worked on it. Because many a times what happened, the candidate is aware of the things, he has worked on it, but unable to crack the interview only for this reason that he was unable to present the things properly, right? So I hope this session will help you all to crack your next interview. And folks, if you want to reach out to me, you can arrange a TopMed call with me. I will provide my link below, or you can just go to TopMed/Sidharth Shukla, right? You can find it over there, and you can arrange a TopMed call with me. I can guide you more about it. And one thing, if you are looking for job, okay, go to Talent 500. They have many cool job with very nice packages, because I have really talked to them, and their packages the companies are providing are very nice. So I would suggest go over there and try to figure out that what are the jobs over there. And if you need any help in like how you will prepare for a particular job in Talent 500, do reach out to me. Okay, till then, take care, stay happy, and keep learning. Bye bye.